So take a look at this list. 12 American presidents. Now, on the surface, yeah, it's just a bunch of names. But if you look a little closer, you start to see it's actually a roadmap. It's like a secret history, not just of the men themselves, but of the office of the presidency. Today, we're going to follow that map and see exactly how the American presidency was built, how it was broken, and how it was remade over more than 200 years.
All right, so here's how we're going to tackle this thing. First, we'll look at the original blueprint, what the founders actually intended. Then, we'll meet a group I'm calling the Great Transformers, the ones who totally changed the game and expanded the president's power. After that, we'll dive into how the masters of mass media turned the office into a national stage. And finally, we'll land right on our own time, the modern digital era, to see how the internet has completely reshaped the presidency once again.
So, first things first, we have to treat this like a puzzle. We're not just looking at a random collection of famous dudes. We're treating this list as a deliberate set of clues. And those clues, when we put them together, are going to reveal a hidden story about power.
And here they are. These are our clues. 12 presidents, covering the entire sweep of American history. You've got Washington, Jefferson, Lincoln, the Roosevelts, Truman, JFK, Nixon, Reagan, Bush, Obama, and Trump. I mean, think about it. From the quill pen to the Twitter feed, the whole story is right here in these names.
So this is the big question, right? The one we're really trying to answer today. What's the pattern? What's the story that connects George Washington to Donald Trump? What is this specific journey, through these specific people, tell us about how the power, the voice, and the entire nature of the presidency has evolved?
Okay, so to solve any puzzle, you have to start at the beginning. And the first two names on our list, well, they are not there by accident. They represent the foundation, the original blueprint that everything else was built on top of.
And of course, those first two are George Washington and Thomas Jefferson. You can think of them as the bookends of that founding era. Each one gave us a really crucial, and actually very different, piece of the presidential puzzle.
You know what's so cool about this is how it frames their roles. Washington was the ultimate precedent setter. He was all about establishing the conventions, the two-term tradition, creating a cabinet, just the overall dignity of the office. He was basically defining what a president should be. But then Jefferson comes along and shows what a president could do. With the Louisiana Purchase, he used his executive power to literally double the size of the country. He showed that the office had the power to physically change the nation's destiny.
But that original blueprint, it didn't stay pristine for very long. The next group of presidents on our list, they weren't just following the rules, they were smashing them. They dramatically expanded the power of the executive branch, usually in a time of major crisis.
And look at this timeline. We're making some huge jumps here. We go from the founding era straight to the Civil War with Lincoln, then to the Progressive era with Teddy Roosevelt, then through the Great Depression and World War II with FDR, and right into the Cold War with Truman. You see the pattern? Each one of these periods was a massive national crisis, and each crisis created an opportunity for presidential power to grow like crazy.
This massive expansion of power actually has a name. Historians call it the imperial presidency. And it's just this idea that over time, the president's power grew to a level that the founders probably never, ever imagined. And this group of presidents, they were the chief architects of that change.
So how'd they do it? Well, let's break it down. Lincoln claimed war powers that no one had ever dreamed up to save the Union. Teddy Roosevelt started using what he called the bully pulpit, basically going over the heads of Congress to appeal directly to the American people. FDR, with the New Deal, built the huge government bureaucracy we know today, totally changing the relationship between the government and its citizens. And then Truman comes along and creates the entire national security apparatus. We're talking the CIA, the Department of Defense. Each one of them left the office way, way more powerful than they found.
Okay, but expanding power isn't just about laws and agencies, right? The next huge leap in our story is all about communication. It's about how presidents learned to use new technology to speak directly to millions of people at once, turning the presidency into a kind of national stage. And our list gives us this perfect trio for this era. It's like a 3-act play about the presidency and television. You have Kennedy, who rode the wave of TV's rise, then Nixon, who got crushed under its intense scrutiny, and finally, Ronald Reagan, who achieved total mastery of the media.
The contrast here is just perfect. For Kennedy, TV was this amazing tool he could use to project youth, coolness, and charisma. His press conferences were witty, he looked great on camera, it created this incredibly powerful public image. But for Nixon, that same unblinking eye of the camera became his absolute downfall. I mean, the Watergate hearings were broadcast live into living rooms all across America, and it subjected the presidency to a level of public scrutiny it had never, ever seen before.
And then came the master. This quote kind of captures Reagan's easy charm, right? But his real genius was in performance. He was a former actor. He understood the power of a simple, compelling story. He totally perfected the art of the televised address from the Oval Office. He was called the Great Communicator because he made Americans feel like he was talking directly and personally to them, and he used that to build massive support for his policies.
And that brings us right up to the modern day, to the final stage of evolution on our list. We're moving from the big, centralized power of network television to the fragmented, chaotic, and super fast world of the 21st century and the internet.
So our last 3 presidents on the list, they had to navigate a world that was changing at warp speed. George W. Bush, Barack Obama, and Donald Trump. Each of them governed through these defining crises, and each one was forced to master totally new ways of communicating.
This table just lays it all out so clearly. Bush's presidency was completely redefined by 9/11, which led to a massive expansion of security powers, all communicated through pretty traditional formal addresses. Then Obama comes in, facing a financial crisis, and becomes the first to really get the power of social media for organizing people. And then Donald Trump just takes it to a whole other level, right? He used Twitter as his personal megaphone to completely bypass the traditional media and talk directly and totally unfiltered to his supporters. You can literally see the evolution happening right there at the table, from formal to digital to completely direct.
So when you step back and look at the whole journey, here's the big takeaway. The presidency started as an office defined by institutions and traditions, the stuff Washington set up. And over 200 years, it evolved into an incredibly powerful, intensely personal platform for mass communication, a tool wielded directly by whoever is in the Oval Office.
And that leaves us with one final, pretty huge question. We've seen the office go from a blueprint to a command center to a media stage. But now, with things like AI, deepfakes, and an even more shattered media world, what's the next stage of its evolution? What is the presidency going to become? That's the question this whole list really leaves us thinking about.